and today I'm going to show you how to make this macrame plant holder. This macrame plant holder is made using one top knot, 6 repetitive knots that are decorative. In this case, we're using a Carrick or Josephine knot, and it is tied off at the end with a rope wrap to make a tassel at the bottom. The other materials you will need for this project are scissors, a ruler or measuring tape, 2 100-inch long lengths of rope, that is 100 inches each, and 1 length of rope that measures 50 inches. And of course, a pot. I'm going to start by measuring 2 100-inch lengths of my rope. There's my first one. And here's my second one. And then I'm going to measure out a 50-inch length of rope. Set your 50-inch length of rope aside, and then take your 2 100-inch lengths and match up the ends. And then take your 2 100-inch lengths and match up the ends and fold them in half so that you end up with 4 strands total. At the folded end, we're going to tie a knot to make a loop for you to hang your planter from. Go ahead and make a loop with all 4 strands and pull the folded end through it, like so. Pull tight. Then we're going to separate the strands in half to start making our knots. This planter is made by taking the 2 strands and connecting them on either side and then splitting them up again to make 2 new connections on the opposite side. So for our first 2 connections, we're going to take the top 2 strands, you can set the bottom 2 aside, and make a Josephine or a Carrick knot. We're going to measure, it's a couple of inches down from the top where your first knot is, making sure that the start of our knot on either end of the rope is about the same. Make a loop using your first strand, and then take your second strand and put it behind this loop. You'll then take the rope from your second strand, place it over and then under, and then over the loop from the first knot, and you're going to tuck it under where your second rope first goes under that loop. So we're taking it over this loop and tucking it under this piece of rope that's behind the loop, and we're going to pull it through. So it goes back over the loop. So you can see it goes over the loop, under the piece of rope behind it, and then over it again. And then we're going to pull tight. Make sure as you're pulling that you're keeping these two lengths of rope about even. You can go back and tighten and loosen and adjust your knots once you're finished with them, but you want to make sure you're keeping some evenness the whole way so that you don't have to do that as much. Any unevenness with the rope will make yourself a crooked planter, and the pot won't quite fit in. So there's your first knot. So there you've made your first knot with your first 2 strands. We're going to set that aside and flip our top knot a little bit, and then go to your next 2 strands. Again, we're going to try and match these 2 knots, so the rope between the first knot and the start of the second knot to be about even. We'll start our knot here. So we're going to loop rope number 1 like this. So the tail of it is down here. With rope number 2, we're going to start behind that loop, go over the tail, go behind the top part of the rope, and then we're going to go over this loop, under the top part of the second rope, and then back over the loop like this. And then you can pull your tension. Again, we'll double check with our other knot, making sure that both knots are equidistant to our first one. This one looks like it needs to move up a tiny bit. Let's double check. Looks about even. Great. And then we'll go ahead and you take 1 string. So we have the 2 strands from the top from this knot and the 2 strands from this knot. We're going to split them and then tie these 2 strands together. So I'm going to pull this so I have the second knots we made in between my knees. I'm going to measure a little bit more distance between these ones. Again, about a couple of inches. Just making sure you're starting your knot the same part of the rope. Make a loop. Go over the tail, under the top, over the loop, under the rope behind it, and then back over the loop. And then pull tight. Alright, I'm going to flip my rope around. So we have this knot, again measuring, so we'll start it about here, make a loop with your first rope, go over the tail, under the top, and then over the loop, under this top rope, and then back over the loop. And then make sure again that it's lined up so that the ropes are all equidistant from the second knot that you made. It's like this one should move down a little bit. Now that we've made these knots, we're going to make one more knot on each side, one more knot on each side, and then we're going to finish off our hanger. I'm going to place these 2 knots between my knees. We'll make one more of these Carrick or Josephine knots. I'm going to start this one a little bit closer, out here. Make a loop. With your second rope, go over the tail, under the top, over the loop, onto the top of the second rope, and then over that first rope's loop again. Alright, and then we'll switch it around again. Make sure everything's about the same length. Make our loop. Over, under, over, under, over. Once we've made all of our Josephine knots, it's time to fit it with our pot. I want my pot to be snug at the bottom here. With the knots crossing at least once over it. I'm going to pull together the 4 ropes at the bottom, place it between my knees, making sure the knots are equidistant from each other from the bottom of the pot, and then hold those 4 ropes together. Then you want to get your 50-inch length of rope. You can match the ends together. They don't quite match up, you can always trim them. And then start wrapping all of the strands, all 5 strands now, with this upper rope. You want to make sure that you're not pulling either side of the rope down too much. And start off a little tight. And then continue wrapping down. You could do it just a few times, or you could wrap for a while. And then make a looser wrap around, and then go above it, and then pull your rope through that loose wrap to tie it off. Like so. Then you can trim the ends, and if you'd like, you could also unravel your ropes to make a nice fringe bottom. And there you go, you've made your macrame plant hanger.